What is up, everyone? Thank you for joining JNT 250 and I for our last episode of the year. Unbelievable, JNT. Isn't it crazy that this is already our last episode?
It's pretty cray.
Yeah, it actually went by so fast. The Clown Fiesta podcast. This is episode 67. We are going to get into LCS format changes. There is a few changes from this year to last, in comparison to last, rather. And then we're going to talk a little bit about NA super servers, or maybe there's a what's it called again? Challenger something?
Challenger Q. Challenger's
Challenger
Q.
queue. Yeah, whatever that is. And then, of course, there's some roster moves to get into North America, Europe, Korea, China. And then we also have Arcane Act 3 to talk about, which was an absolute banger. It is so good. There will be spoilers for that section, but that's why we leave it to the very end. So don't worry about spoilers until the very end of the show. We will warn you one last time when we get there. Should be a quicker episode, although every time we say that, the episodes do stay pretty long, but we're trying to do this one pretty quickly. And J&T, let's get into it. Let's talk about the LCS format changes. What do you think? And I guess just share with people what they are, first of all.
Yeah, so first and foremost, pretty big question mark going into next season is there was never really any confirmation if they were going to do the lock-in tournament again. Seems that they are, but I think that's very minor in comparison to the rest of the changes that they're making. First off, they're basically backtracking on the majority of the changes that they did last year for the format. First
Hmm.
off, your spring to summer record will no longer carry over, meaning if you did poorly in the spring split or you did very well in the spring split, it's not going to have any effect on your summer standings. You're going to start out fresh at
Right.
0-0. So you can argue in the case of the top teams that really doesn't benefit them, but in case of the bottom teams, it probably does benefit them because it gives them the chance to take the off-season break between spring and summer, reevaluate, reassess, rebuild, potentially get some new players in there, and you're starting with a clean slate.
Do you think EG, a team that took some risks on some younger players, knew this was happening when they did their roster moves?
I mean, maybe it's quite
I wonder
possible.
that. That was something I just thought of. That's something I just thought of now. I wonder, like, if I'm a team and or if I'm a GM and I'm building a team, I would like to know what next year is going to look like. So I hope that the teams or the managers, CEOs, whoever's building these rosters knew that this was going to happen. However, anyways, on a side note, JT, do you like these changes?
Um, I think yes and no, because I do think that it is beneficial to the bottom teams that do make changes between spring and summer for the better. I think the first team to point out is Golden Guardians. Um, I don't have like their actual records on paper, but from if my memory serves me correct, I'm pretty sure they either would have been seventh or sixth in regular season standings just based off the summer split, not including their very terrible 3-15 record. And that would have gave them obviously a much more advantageous matchup in the playoffs, which could have potentially extended, their playoff run. I do remember though that they drew Cloud9 because they were the lowest seed. For their first playoff match, they got stomped 3-0. That was obviously expected, but I think people recognize that Golden Guardians, one, made a lot of improvements, and two, weren't actually the worst team around when it came to LCS summer playoffs when there was 8 teams making it in. So in the case of those teams, I think it definitely benefits them. But in the case of top teams who have a really good spring and a really poor summer, that can definitely hurt them more. We'll look at Cloud9 from spring to summer. They were the best team, had a 13-5 record, I believe, in the spring split, and then in summer had a very, very average record. I think it was 14-13, and that would have placed them, I think, either fifth. I think it was fifth, as opposed to their third place um, finish via standings based off of the spring and summer records combined. So it's both good and bad. I like the changes personally because I always think that yeah, spring is important, but when it comes to like playoff seeding, your summer performance matters more.
Yeah, it's for me. I already felt like last year's summer performance mattered more. I'm not going to pretend that there was no flaws with last year's format because we did see some issues with it. But with 60% of the games being in summer split last year, I already felt like summer did matter more versus the 40% in spring. To your to the point about this is better for the stronger teams or the weaker teams, I think it's still kind of beneficial to all of them because you could argue that EG should be a top five team, but this benefits them because they could go out and play Jojo Pyun and Danny, right? Who are younger rookies and they get to try out that stuff. So I think all the teams benefit from being able to try different rosters, but I think it's worse for the fans in the sense that the games just don't matter as much anymore. And this goes right back to the double lift meme of spring doesn't matter. It kind I've never been in the full boat that spring doesn't matter, but it definitely matters less than summer. And I just think it sucks, man. If you finish second and it's all for naught, like it's literally first or you get nothing out of it. Because if you're first, you get to go to MSI, and that's great and all. But I think it is a little bit less boring that like I feel like I'll be watching a split that's means way less. And I think that as soon as one team starts to struggle and they feel like they have no chance of making playoffs, they're really just going to go with they're just going to try absolutely everything, and maybe they're going to try like really young rookies that are unproven. Like maybe you would go with like a Niles again, which we some people have good arguments and bad arguments for why Niles should have been a thing or shouldn't have been a thing, but um, yeah, I guess it gives teams more incentives to give up on their spring split a lot earlier, knowing that the championship points thing doesn't exist and it doesn't have any influence on whether you go to Worlds at the end of the year.
Yeah, I do think, for the most part, spring doesn't matter. And I think this is just a world where they've kind of committed to that fact. Like, they know it's a problem, but at the same time, it's very difficult to solve said problem. So I feel like they did a good job by just saying, there's nothing we can really do about it. So we might as well just make a beneficial format for all parties involved. And I think the main thing that they were trying to do with this change was eliminate player burnout. One thing that they
Yeah,
really discussed that was discussed quite a lot last year, specifically in North America, but also around the world, was player burnout. And now what they're doing this year, in comparison to last year there was a 6 week split in the spring, followed by a 9 week split in summer. And instead, what they're doing is 8 week spring, 8 week summer, but they're also removing the games played on Friday and instead are doing two super weeks, quote unquote. And if you're an OG
yeah.
LCS fan, you know what super week is, and it's basically just playing an extra game that week during the season. And they didn't exactly specify which 2 weeks they are, but I'm just going to assume it's the first and last week because it's basically the exact same format that the LEC was doing. And also, when they were doing Super Weeks back in like season 4, it was the first, middle, and last week. And if they're doing two, I would assume first and last.
Were Super Weeks 4 games back then? Was it
Yeah, they
Thursday,
were.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
No,
Now it's just
no, it
Friday,
wasn't.
Saturday, Sunday.
It was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but on one of those 2 days, you played two games.
Mm, okay.
It
I
was, I
thought I remember
believe,
Thursday's game. Maybe
no, it wasn't.
EULCS did Thursday games. Is that possible?
Well, EU used to play on Thursday and Friday, and then LCS would play
So
Saturday, Sunday. So that's what
maybe that's
you're
where I'm
thinking
getting
of.
crossed up. That
Yeah.
that could be it. Yeah, definitely. And the other thing that I'll say as well is that I think that my take on the last thing being about how spring doesn't matter and like it really kind of hurts summer split. I'm pretty sure that was the minority take. Like I remember last year, a lot of the community was like, "Look, we just want you to go back to the old format." So even though it's not personally my favorite, I don't mind Riot doing this or the LCS rather doing this if they think that the majority of people want it to go back to the old ways. If that's what most people want, then I'm totally cool with doing that. And by the sounds of the article that they released, it seemed like most of the feedback they were getting was that people wanted it to go back to the old ways. And so even though it's not my favorite, I do have to respect that if that's what more people want, then let's go with that, you know? Kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah, I will be honest though, like at first I was excited with the idea that we were going to have 3 days of LCS with 5 games each day because they kind of done the experimentation with like Friday Night League was 2 games, Monday Night League was 2 games, but then they reduced the number of games on Saturday, Sunday to four. So at the time, it felt like 5 games on 3 days was going to be awesome. But like looking back on it, there was just a lot of games throughout the week that I really didn't care about and just weren't interested in. And it was just kind of matchups that you would just see more often than I guess you would like because with this change, they've also removed each team playing each other 5 times back to four
Yeah.
times. And there's just definitely a bunch of matches that you really don't care about and don't want to see to a certain point. Obviously, when the season starts, I think that's not the case because every matchup is very interesting because teams are fairly unknown. But once you get to like the middle and back up of the season, I do not want to watch a game between CLG and FlyQuest.
I was just going to ask you,
Like
what two teams do you not want to see play each other?
the worst two teams last year, which were CLG and FlyQuest. Like I don't care about that
Yeah.
matchup, and I don't want to care about that matchup. Same with like Immortals versus Dignitas. I know that those were like two teams that were fighting for like the 6, 7 spot for the majority of summer, but like it just wasn't very interesting, and it did feel like at times the broadcast would just feel a bit long because well, one, it was three days total instead of 2 days, and it was like a 5+ hour broadcast with usually 2 of the 5 games I didn't really care about. So I'm
Yeah,
actually
they were
glad.
asking you. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm glad that we're going back to 5 days of Saturday Sunday because it did feel like that was always the best format because when they did reduce it to 4 and put 2 on Sunday or put 2 on Monday or Friday, it felt like Saturday and Sunday were just a bit too short.
And one of the things that happens with this now is the games do mean more if there's less games, right? There's less, so that's an argument for this being better, is that the games matter more
Mm.
with less variance, or I guess with more variance, I guess you could look at it with less games. Um what was my other point? I'm losing my train of thought. Um Oh, the one thing that I was really surprised, because I think this was the most outrage, if you will, that I heard last year, was that 8 teams make playoffs in summer, and it looks like they're sticking with that. It looks like they're gonna do 6 teams make playoffs in spring, but 8 still make it in summer, which I
Yeah,
thought
that
that was, like,
sucks.
the overall consensus, that I heard so many people that didn't want that. So I was like, they're listening to the community for the most part, but not with the 8 teams making playoffs. That's still kinda crazy, is it not?
Yeah, I feel like even if they wanted to include some extra playoff spots, like just add the 7th one. Do not add the 8th one. Like again, like while I do think that Golden Guardians was a solid team, although they were the 8th seed, based off of last year's format, they didn't really deserve to make playoffs based on how terrible they were in spring. Partially
Mhm.
why I'm glad that we are moving towards the old format where spring doesn't carry over from summer, because a team like Golden Guardians should be rewarded for having a stronger summer in comparison to their spring. But at the same time, like you just can't play that bad for that long and just get into playoffs. Like it just
Yeah.
shouldn't work like that. And
Yeah.
while I do think that it makes there potentially draws more interest towards the league and towards players and towards teams because additional teams are making playoffs. At the same time, like you get those playoff matches like last year against Cloud9 versus Golden Guardians, where they just shit stomped them 3-0. It was GG, 25-minute games every time.
Yeah, and this time around, because spring doesn't carry over to summer, that 8th place team is going to feel way more like an 8th place team
Oh,
than
they're gonna be
last
bad.
year's,
Like
right? Like, it's
it's a
gonna feel
bad eighth
worse.
place team.
Yeah, so with the change of no longer having spring games go over into summer, I thought for sure you would get rid of 8 different teams making playoffs. You have 80% of the league making playoffs still.
Yeah.
That is really, like, wow. Even though I actually didn't mind it last year, again, because Golden Guardians was, like, kind of looking better, and they were more interesting than I think a normal 8th place team would look, but I mean, that's besides the point.
Yeah. And just the last quick thing on the format changes we didn't mention, but is worth noting. Now going into playoffs, the first seed is allowed to choose between the third and fourth seed who they are going to play. Because last year they had a fixed bracket as opposed to dynamic seeding, previously citing the season 10 summer playoffs for not wanting repeat matches between teams. Which, first of all, I didn't even understand that point in the first place because it always felt way more interesting. Like they cited the
Yeah.
TSM versus Golden Guardians, like they played them in one round, and then the next round they just played each other again. But I feel like that made it way more
So,
interesting because
yeah, who
Golden
cares?
Guardians 3-0'd them, and then it was a really close 3-2 reverse sweep. That was like one of the best series of that playoffs. It felt like.
Yeah.
So
Now that's like best case scenario, right? Because the
yeah,
worry, like, let's play devil's advocate here. The worry is that one team 3-0s and then they just 3-0 them again. That's what they're afraid of happening.
but I mean that at
But
the same time, I would argue like that's your penalty if you're one of those bottom tier teams and you're the 8th or 7th place team making it into playoffs.
right.
Like
Yeah.
dude, like you're a bad team in the first place. Like you should have to go up against the best competition and prove yourself that you can beat them.
Not to mention 3-0s can happen at any time. I
Yeah,
mean, other than this year, how many times did we see 3-0s in Worlds finals, right?
yeah,
Like,
it's
literally
true.
the two best teams in the world, and you got 3-0s so often. Like, so it could happen anytime. Yeah. So, and there was controversy. For those that don't remember, there was, oh, did 100 Thieves purposely put in their academy team so they could lose the game so that they could get the better part of the bracket? Uh,
And face
I would
EG
say,
instead of C9
right. And
or
I
C9
can't say.
winner of C9 TL versus the winner of EG Dig or something like that.
Yeah, and while I can't say yes, that's what they did, I can't say no either. That's like, so the fact that it's a possibility is kind of what makes me happy that that change happens. If you're first seed, I think you should get to choose what team you're going to play against. That's,
Hmm.
I think it's that simple. And if you have to play the same teams again twice later in the bracket, so be it. Whatever. Because I don't really like teams putting in their academy team at the last second, being like, we want to give our academy players some some stage time. Like
Yeah.
I don't blame them for doing that. By the way, if I'm Papa Smithy or who was coaching, I guess it would Reaper.
Yeah.
I'm doing what's best for my team, so I don't blame them at all. I think that's on the format, and so that's something that they fix. So kudos to them for fixing that. And then I guess one thing to add is that in the announcement or whatever in the article that they wrote, they said, and I'm quoting here: "We do not plan on making significant changes to the LCS Academy and amateur competitions for the foreseeable future." And basically, the argument is like they don't want to just be flip flopping around every year to see and keep trying different stuff. They want to stick with this and see how this goes for a little while, as by the sounds of things. So
Which
it
is
looks like
funny because it's kind of just like their old format, which is the
yeah,
funny part.
yeah.
It's
Well,
and it's the same format that the LEC does. Like the LEC
yeah.
minus the playoff structure and format, the LEC has the exact same schedule with 8-week double round robin, super week, week 1, week 8.
It's like, oh, let's see how it goes. But it's like, well, we've seen how it goes. Like,
Yeah.
we've seen this before, which is kind of funny. But I mean, whatever. That's fine. I don't mind them saying, look, we don't want to be changing every year because that can be draining on the teams or whatever. I don't mind that argument. That makes sense. So, even though I don't agree with all the changes that they made, I think that the changes that they did make is because they're listening to feedback from people. And so I can't discredit for any of that. Okay, within the same post, they made some super server stuff. I went on Hotline League tonight and talked a little bit about it, but there was one part in the article that stood out to me. And so I'm going to read another quote here. They said, "These improvements are indicative of our refocus and further investment into academy and amateur infrastructure." Obviously, they're talking about the academy part at this point in the article. And they said, "It's crucial that we maintain strong, effective avenues for North American talent to develop, and we're placing high priority on executing these new changes." And then in that same article, they say that they're doing I already forget the name of it, the challenger thing. What is it again?
Challengers queue.
Oh, geez, I'm gonna struggle with this challengers queue thing. I'm gonna keep forgetting this. The reason why I think that's a weird quote to have is because a lot of people made the argument that with this challengers queue, that you are kind of leaving the East Coast out to dry, and that's a worry that I myself also have with this super server stuff. With that said, what it's supposed to do is have an environment where the LCS pros and I guess other aspiring pros have an area on the West Coast to play, which is low ping. And this is obviously good because that's where all of the pros live. I mean, if you're playing in the LCS or Academy, you're in LA. You're on the West Coast.
And some
So I
amateur
can't
teams if you're
I
kind of directly correlated to a mainstream org.
yeah, I can't ignore the good and the bad possibilities from these changes. And talking with Travis, Mark Z, and Raz on Hotline tonight about this, it doesn't seem like they quite know how to feel about it either. It sounds like there's a lot that's still unknown, but it is definitely interesting because J&T, how long have we heard pros complain about ping being one of the issues that holds back North America? It's
Probably
been
like 4 or
I don't,
5 years now.
maybe even more, right? It's been so long.
Yeah.
Um, and so I don't blame people that are upset with this change because if you live in Quebec, for example, and you want to play with the best of the best pros, your ping is going to be way above the 60 that the pros in LA complain about. It's going to be probably around 100 or something like that.
It won't be
So while you're
100. It'll be like
it,
70 maybe.
I wouldn't doubt it being 100 honestly from Quebec all the way to LA.
Mm,
I
when
could
I
I could see it being 100 for sure.
when the servers were still West Coast, this like before they moved to Chicago, whenever I was in like Nova Scotia, for people that don't know what that is, that's East Coast Canada. I think the ping was like 80 or like
Really?
78. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So I would assume from a place like again, if you don't know what Quebec is, it's basically Canada directly north of kind of like eastern United States, New York, Vermont kind of area. Just go up. But yeah, I would assume it's probably somewhere around 70 ping, maybe 70, 75. Obviously, the servers are better now, so you could probably even push like I would argue towards 70. But I totally agree with you. Like those pros or aspiring pros, not pros because the pros will be on West Coast, who are gonna want to like get in this type of queue, or solo queue is kind of going to get drained of those players because all those players are going to be wanting to play on the challengers queue. It definitely becomes more difficult for them. So I definitely see like your point there, but I do think that in this case scenario, like the good does outweigh the bad. And while it does 100% suck for those players on East Coast, you can't ignore at the same time that like people have been begging for this for quite a while, and whether or not you want to label it as an excuse for NA's performances at Worlds or like this is just like a scapegoat, point for pros to make for like to justify their bad performances, it will be a good thing. I think it is a good environment, and pros will always talk about how much the ping matters when they go to EU and they go to Korea. If you're in Korea, you basically have 8 ping. If you're in like good spot in EU and have good internet, you're basically getting like 15 to 25 ping, which is really really good. So I think overall, the good outweighs the bad, but it'll just be interesting to see how the whole thing plays out when it gets implemented. How many people are actually involved in it? Like who knows? Maybe the idea just dies off just as much like as in-houses did or something like that.
Hmm. That's the
It'll just
fear, right?
yeah, it'll be weird.
So I'm not sure if I can say with certainty that the good outweighs the bad yet. I think for me, that's me personally. I don't know yet. But regardless of that, I still think it's a good change. And my reasoning for it is because what is working or what is happening right now is not working. We've heard pros say for like I said at the start of this segment for so long that this is one of the biggest problems that's holding North America back. And if what's happening right now is not working, I'm of the opinion that you need to change something, try something else, and see how it goes. That's the way I look at it. I think that having pros being able to play on low ping when they're practicing in solo queue is so important that even if it does unfortunately hurt the East Coasters, which again I'm an East Coaster, being in like the Toronto area, sort of. Um, I still think that it's good overall, even if it hurts more of the population because there's more people on the East Coast than there is on the West Coast. It's like it hurts more people, but for the pros themselves, this could be a huge benefit. And then you could also make the argument that if this does work out, let's say that the new super server challenger queue does work out, maybe imports from other regions are more likely to be open to coming to North America, assuming we even need more imports. I mean, that's a whole nother topic there. But maybe it makes North America a more attractive destination to play as a pro if you know that the ping won't be just absolute trash and you might have a better solo queue environment. It's possible.
Yeah, I guess the last thing that I'll say about it is I wonder if like Riot has either pulled or has like some data internally to actually know what the percentage of high elo players are on the West Coast, because it wouldn't be surprising at all
Mhm.
if they did have those stats. Like if they could somehow, and I don't even know if they can or if they like whatever. If they look at
I'm sure they
Masters,
probably could
maybe,
actually. I think they
but
could.
like if they go from Masters Plus, if they internally know that 65% of all the players in Masters and above are on the West Coast or would benefit more from a West Coast server and therefore lower ping, like that makes a lot of sense. Like I don't think they would make this sort of a move if over 50% of these high rated players are on the East Coast. So I would assume they have some data to back up with it. But yeah, it unfortunately will screw those East Coast players. But maybe maybe they just got to move out, go West Coast, go
Well,
full
see,
gamer mode.
and that's the argument against this kind of thing, though. What, like, 17 or 16-year-old is just going to be like, "Hey, mom, dad, is it cool if I just move to the West Coast to play League of Legends?" Like, that seems like a tough sell to, you know what I'm saying? So there's definitely a world where this is disaster. I don't know if we're living in that world or not, but it's definitely something to worry about. Really is something that's very exciting and also very Monka-esque at the same time. This is not I don't think we know what to expect out of this, and I think you and I will probably have much stronger, and even like I said, even Travis, Mark, and Raz will probably all have stronger opinions on this 1 year from now, 2 years from now.
Yeah, when it
Just
actually comes out.
once we find out if people are actually utilizing this thing, like maybe no one even uses it, like you said, like the in houses, and then it's just dead, and we just go right back to where we are now. What I
Yeah,
do know is that there's this persistent problem. You hear about it all the time. It's nonstop. Every time North America gets knocked out of worlds, people are like, "Well, the ping's bad. North America's never going to get better." And it's like, well, at least they're trying to do something about it.
yeah,
Even though it might suck for some East Coasters, they're trying something. I'm always pro do something else if this isn't working, and so that's the good here, right? And
yeah.
the other thing that I'll add before we move on is that apparently this is something that the LCSPA has been working
I
on.
was gonna say that as well. Yeah, I was just gonna add that
Yeah,
in. So
so
shout out Core JJ.
Well, I was gonna say shout out Darshan, because
Wasn't
Darshan's the head of the LCSPA, is he not?
Oh, I thought like Wasn't Core JJ still like the right hand guy, like the VP or
So
whatever?
Core JJ is definitely one of the guys that was pushing for this. I don't want to take credit away from Core JJ, because there's a few players that are on the board or whatever it is. I'm sure Core JJ and Darshan were probably the two most influential with this kind of thing. I think it's probably Core JJ asking for it and Darshan the one making it happen. If
He
that
just
makes
he, he
sense.
he just makes videos of him singing on Twitter, dude. He doesn't play League anymore.
Well, that means he has time to work for the LCSPA, which, as I'll remind people, was a joke for a long time. It was kind of a meme, and so it looks like the LCSPA is doing something. And it looks like apparently what they did, as per Travis Gafford, is they went to the players and said, "How come you're not doing the in-houses? Why are you not utilizing them?" They said, "Because of this, that, and the other." And they said, "Okay, let's make whatever a server where we could fix this, that, and the other. And now you should be happy with this. You should utilize this." And so
Mhm.
we will see. We will see how this looks. And I don't know. If things work out, this could actually be really, really good for North America. But who knows? Who knows?
Well,
All right.
we got our over this past week, we got the finishing touches on all of our projected North American rosters. For the most part, if you did hear up or you were listening last week and you were on Twitter, Reddit, wherever, you would know that the majority of the rosters have sort of been put together while not confirmed, while pen has not been put to paper. All the rumors, reports, and whatnot had pretty much every single roster finalized at this point. The only question marks were at the time Biofrost, who did sign with Dignitas, we know that. Destiny, who did stay with Immortals, we do know that. But the two new last minute pieces of information that we do have is C9, we did talk about last week how there was some uncertainty surrounding their bot lane. C9 is signing former T1 challengers AD carry Berserker. To start, to back up, who knows? From the Cloud9 video they released about their off-season stuff, it's basically they're going to Korea boot camp, and better player is going to play. If Sven is better than Berserker, Sven's going to play. If Berserker's better, Berserker's going to play. If Winsome is better, Winsome is going to play. If Isles is better, Isles is going to play. And then they even said for mid lane, like if C9 Academy's mid laner copy is turns out to be better than Fudge, they're going to play copy.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I hadn't heard the part about Sven because I did look at the database today and I saw that Sven re-signed. And so I was like, what's going on there? Because obviously I heard about the Berserker thing. So okay, I didn't know that Sven was still in the picture. I thought that when they signed Berserker, I thought Sven was gone. And then
No,
like I said,
he's still there.
I looked at the database thing today and I was like, wait, what's going on here? So yeah, I guess a couple audibles at the last second. They called an audible, and I mean, I guess it's interesting, right? Um, I guess I want to ask you, J and T, because I don't think we want to get too far into the teams as far as power rankings and stuff. We will leave that for our first episode next season.
hmm
But what teams are you most excited for now? Now that things have, I don't want to say completely settled down because this has been a really weird offseason, but let's say mostly settled down. What are the teams that you're
Well,
excited
I'll get to the other one real quick because we got another one.
for?
TSM
Oh,
stuff.
sorry.
Yeah, no problem. TSM was obviously the biggest question mark so far in the offseason. Um, Everyone obviously knew when the whole Bjergsen news came out that they were sticking with Huni and Spica. That's still the case. And the
Hmm.
rumor was Tactical. They've officially signed Tactical. But tons of rumors over in the LPL. I think from like 3 or 4 different people now are saying that TSM is getting FPX's sub support Shenyi. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. I don't even know who he is, but he's FPX sub support plus an unnamed LDL mid laner. LDL is the LPL Challenger Series, basically, or Academy system. So
So
it's weird. I don't know. TSM having a weird roster.
well, and the other thing too is that like I feel so hesitant to say these things are locked in because first of all, like you mentioned, ink has to hit paper, but also, do you remember last year how it was kind of messy? Like they were gonna have Palette or something, and then Sword Art signed, and
Yeah,
it
it's
was like
true. Yeah.
the double lift stuff happened. Like we weren't sure, is he playing? Is he not playing? Is he retired? Like
hmm
that was kind of a mess. So I don't feel all that confident that things are locked, especially with how wacky this offseason has been. That's
Especially
where I'm
for
a little bit like,
TSM.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it is still very, very interesting. But regardless, I think that TSM, no matter what, is an exciting team, right? No, like no matter who they have, because they're TSM, I feel like it's exciting to see what happens to them.
I think, we'll continue to talk about it, but the most exciting roster is obviously the Team Liquid roster. Um, and I even said this before, like this team is a shoo-in to win the split. I don't think any team on paper really matches up individually to them, and I think the majority of people are just looking forward to international competition and really seeing like if this team can sort of break through the perceived North American ceiling, which is okay, the top is making it to semifinals. And, the two times that North America has been in semifinals, they've gotten absolutely butt blasted, and it hasn't even been close. And, it's more of can a team like this make the finals at Worlds, or if they can even look really competitive? Because you could also argue that Cloud9 had a very easy quarterfinals matchup in hindsight in that
Hmm.
2018 run against Afrika Freaks. So for me, the TL roster is obviously the most exciting.
See, for me, it's not. They're the most exciting when it comes to international stuff. But I think I mentioned last week, and if I didn't, I'll mention it now. I think EG is the most exciting because there's such potential for like awesome, and there's such potential for like just pure disappointment from that roster. I think that EG probably went with the biggest gamble. So I think my eyes are on EG. I mean, the thing is, even though they're super exciting, like I can't discount how exciting TL is as well because they have all these all stars. And then you got C9, who's got the whole LCK thing going on. It sounds like TSM got the whole LPL thing going on.
Hmm.
So for me, it's like I think there's so many interesting lineups, and going into a season where you're losing your Perks and Alfari and Sword Art, I would think that the season should be so like sleeper, but it's just not, especially with Bjergsen coming back. Like, do I need to remind people we got the GOAT of North America coming back as well? So it's so weird that this offseason where we lost all the hype players from last year that we're going into still just another hype season. I think that's really strange.
Yeah, I'll throw my backup answer in there because I've always liked this team, but I'll go with the Mortals. Like I think the pickups of Wild Turtle and Power of Evil are really, really good. I think pairing both of them with Xerxes makes for like a pretty decent like core for your team. But I am still a bit nervous of keeping Revenge in the top lane and keeping Destiny. Destiny was a really inconsistent player in terms
Yeah.
of just his laning with Raze, and like who knows, like maybe they definitely think that Destiny is the better option of the two because let's be honest, Raze did a lot of inting last year.
Yeah.
And same with Revenge. I mean, he seems like his ceiling, like, he has a good ceiling, but it does feel like it's kind of like a Revenge will have one good game and then two or three bad games, and one really good game and then two or three bad games. So it's kind of like a one step forward, two steps backwards kind of thing with Revenge. And so it'll be interesting to see if, keeping Xerxes and kind of building along that, like, brings some more consistency for him, and then adding better players in Power of Evil and Wild Turtle will kind of balance out that very sketchy mid and ADC that they had in summer, where Insanity had a really bad split and their bot lane wasn't looking so hot.
The interesting thing for me when it comes to Immortals is that Gyoto's not there anymore because he
That's
looks like
true,
he's
yeah.
going to TL.
Well, he is.
And
That's official.
the thing is like I think one of the reasons why Xerxes went to Immortals in the first place is because he was going to be with his coach that he played with in
Yeah.
Europe, and then last second, the coach is like, "Oh, guys, they're going to pay me a lot of money. I gotta go." And also, there was like, um, I don't know what the right word would be, but the dynamic, I guess, between Revenge and Kyoto was really interesting. I don't know if you remember them on Hotline, but um, there was times that like Kyoto's just straight up flaming Revenge and like not not flaming for the sake of flaming, but he's just very straightforward, and Revenge spoke often about how he appreciated just the straightforward feedback that he got from his coach. And so I bet you there's probably a few players from Immortals that are probably disappointed that they're losing their coach, and that's something that I guess I'm a little bit disappointed.
Probably Destiny as well. He also played on Origin.
Yeah.
Um, when Gyoto was there. So yeah, losing Gyoto is definitely a big hit. But I mean, it hasn't been known, but it's probably pretty obvious that TL backed up the Brinks truck to get him
Yeah.
to pair him up with their super team.
Out of the one of the last things I'll ask you about the rosters going into next year is out of all of the 10 teams, how many of them are you personally interested in? Because I think for me it's kind of a boring answer. I am pretty much interested in all of them for the most part,
Oh well,
but I don't think that's the case for
it's
you, right?
definitely not all of them. I would
Yeah, I
say
didn't think so.
C9 for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Immortals, Golden Guardians, TL. I don't know, like I'm not like the EG roster. I think it's interesting. Yeah, I don't know.
Are we counting EG or no?
I don't think so. I'm not even like
No? Okay, so we're still at 4.
I don't know. And then I'm not interested in 100 Thieves because it's just the same roster.
But
Not to
they're
say
gonna
that
defend their
well,
title. How can you not count them?
well, not to say that they're not interesting, but like it's not like oh my god, like 100 Thieves. I'm excited. It's just like okay, they're running the same roster back. It's like
I'm excited for 100 Thieves.
and then maybe Dignitas just because like I guess I hope that River is going to be like a good player and won't like crumble around like a bad team and instead like bring up the team and like make the team better. So I'm hoping for that.
Yeah, I
Um,
think Dig is like the only team that like I'm on the fence with because River. I do want to see how he does, but
yeah,
like I'm not really all that excited about Fake God or Blue or
yeah,
Biofrost, honestly. So Dignitas is the one that's like kind of on the bubble, but I'm literally interested in every single other team, even CLG, because it's like,
yeah. I could care
can it
less.
get worse? Can it get worse? Okay, so how many of them was that?
Like
So
five,
not Dignitas,
like
not
five.
EG for some reason, bean soup for you. Not 100 Thieves for some reason, another bean soup for you. Interesting, JNT, interesting.
Can't say
Anything else
every
before we move
team.
on?
Like you can't like that's a boring
Why not?
answer.
I'm interested. What can I
Oh my
say?
god.
What do you want from me? I like watching. I can't wait to see Afro and Johnson play again. Like I love that bot lane duo. I want to
You
see if they
so
can bring back
you
what they
excited for
had
Kumo in the top
last
lane
year.
and Jose
No, I
Diodo in
am
the
not.
jungle? Okay,
I am
well,
not excited for Kumo. I think that guy's kind of
I
stinky,
think you
but
need to rephrase that you're interested in at least one player on each team, not that you're interested in the team.
that's enough for me to care about the team. So,
No, no,
like,
no. That's not how that works.
yes, it is. That is for me.
Okay, well, you have fun supporting your 10 teams.
I will. All right, what's next?
Yeah, we got some other free agency stuff. We'll start with the NA stuff, some coaching staff stuff. TL is keeping their previous head coach, former interim head coach, Cold. Kind of
Hmm.
interesting because the last time we sort of saw the new Team Liquid coaching staff roll in, they kind of cleaned house. And I mean, when Jet showed up, pretty much they got rid of everybody. Kane, and the rest of like the positional coaches, analysts, and everything. And Jet basically
Well,
brought a bunch of new people in. One of the
Cold was a Jack guy too, right?
exactly, yeah,
Yeah.
and they stuck with Cold, and they didn't really get a new coach for the rest of the summer season, and they're sticking with them, and he deserves it. I mean, he did a pretty good job despite all the like drama behind the scenes with Team Liquid, and he was obviously like former pro player, pretty decent player as well, so that's good for them. Next
What
up,
else?
TSM is signing former Hong Kong Attitude coach Chawi, also former pro player, who was
I
pretty
don't know
decent.
anything about him.
GBay99 made a video about him. He's like he's one of his favorite players. Yeah,
Okay.
he made a video on him. Chawi's a pretty decent player. He was the backup mid laner to oh my god, I'm forgetting his name. My god, AHQ's mid laner, the Fizz one trick. What's his name? Westor. Is that his name?
Oh,
Yeah, he was like
that guy. Yeah, yeah.
he was the backup to Westor back in
Okay.
the day in like season 5, season 6 and was like pretty good player. Um Now we'll go to some EU stuff, but a mix of EU and NA. Cody
Hmm.
Sun is going to the LFL to join some random team I've never heard of. I didn't even write them down, but also I couldn't even pronounce the team if I wanted to. But and then weird side note, Malrong, the substitute jungler for Damwon, is also joining that team. So
Yeah.
I mean, the LFL is definitely going to be super exciting next year. I remember there's like a whole thing on Twitter about creating an English broadcast for it because there's going to be so much interest with players like Reckless joining. And I think for the few fans who still follow Cody Sun, even though he's been in academy for like the last 2 years, he's going to the LFL. So
Yeah, see, that's the only part about this that I really care. I can't pretend I know much about Malrung. I just don't. But the Cody Sun thing one is interesting because I was pretty vocal last year that I still thought Cody Sun had something left in the tank. And so it's like this is an opportunity for him to have a little resurgence by like showing that he still got something and maybe proving himself in Europe. So
maybe.
I think that's exciting for him. I don't I think he was deserving of an LCS spot last year. But also um, this made me think, did we ever figure out if Dardoch is going to one of those teams? Because wasn't there talk that Dardoch was going to go to Europe and join one of the ERL teams?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it hasn't been any news about it, but
Okay, so I was trying to remember if something like that had already been announced. That was the rumor like a long time ago, right? Like
Yeah.
months ago,
Well, he
is
signed
that
with
he was
like
gonna try
a
to go.
he signed with like an EU talent agency, and
Oh.
if that's maybe what you're thinking of, but at the same time, like it still was thought that like Dardoch was gonna try to
Hmm.
join in an ERL team.
Yeah, but nothing of that yet.
Yeah.
Um,
Last up on the
and
West
then
stuff. Oh,
yeah,
yep.
go for it.
I was just say yeah. Last
No,
up on the West stuff. Wonder. He's no longer one of the teamless slash homeless players. He's joining
he's no
Fnatic.
longer in prison.
Yeah, he's no longer in contract prison. He can upload his WoW character out of jail. He's going to Fnatic, replacing Adam, joining rival Fnatic after being on G2 for 4 years,
Was it that long?
eight,
Wow.
9, 10, 11. Yep.
Wow. Okay. I mean, look, Wonder. The thing is, there was what at the end of this year, or maybe not even at the end of this year, just during the season, there was a lot of talk that Wonder wasn't playing that much anymore, or practicing enough, and that he wasn't that good anymore. But pretty much all of his teammates came to his defense immediately. Which, yes, there is teammates; they're biased, but pretty much the consensus was that this guy still got it, and that
Hmm.
people would be crazy if they're not going after him. So it looks like Fnatic kind of listened to that advice, or at least they agree with that notion,
Yeah,
and now they have one of the better LEC top laners.
it's weird because before this news came out, like it kind of came out of left field. Like there were a bunch of reports that like Fnatic was trying to get an Eastern top laner. One of those was like 369 from Top Esports. Another one, I think that was thrown out there was like Niski potentially role
Yeah.
swapping to top lane. So it was like that would have been weird to see like Niski go mid to top and Fudge going top to mid. But you know, Fnatic has their top now. Still no word on Upset, so I guess presumably Upset is sticking around, and if that's the case, that would make their roster Wonder, Razork, Humanoid, Upset, Hylissang, and like feels like people are kind of not talking about Fnatic with G2 getting their new roster and Vitality building the EU Super Team. So like Fnatic is still going to be a very good team going forward.
Yeah,
Like
there's some good names on that roster.
in my opinion, they have the best bot lane in the league. Humanoid was regarded as the best mid laner in the league last year, and Razork was like one of the best young rookies of like the last year. And if Wonder is just not inting like he was last year in D2, like this is going to be a scary team.
If he's not inting. Yeah, that's the thing that we do have to acknowledge is that even though everyone's saying that Wonder's still one of the better top laners, he did
Oh,
definitely
he was griefing last year.
struggle. Yeah, so I think that that wasn't not a totally fair representation of his gameplay because yeah, he was kind of running it down. So I guess this is one of his chance to bounce back and probably needed. It's probably really needed if he wants his career to continue because if you have back-to-back poor seasons on top teams, I think that looks pretty bad for teams wanting to go after you.
Yeah,
So yeah. What about some East stuff? LPL, LCK. What's going on
yeah.
there?
We got the big boys. We'll talk about the big boys. Faker, he officially re-signed with T1. I don't even know if this is true or not, but I read a Reddit post saying that his salary is $7.1 million. That
That's
is
something.
nuts. Like that
That's a
is
lot of money.
so much money.
The thing is,
Um,
though, is that he's worth it.
oh, he is. Like
And forget skill level because I
he's
don't
like
think that
one of
he's
the
still.
most
I don't
famous people in Korea.
exactly. He's the most famous person in esports, probably.
Yeah.
Um, so just with that alone, like the brand name of Faker carries so much weight to it, even if he's not performing at his Faker level that we've known for years. He's still one of the better mid laners in the world, regardless. And obviously, his brand name is going to come at a really significant cost. And I mean, how can you not? How can you not want Faker to do well? So right, so there you're gonna retain a lot of fans by having Faker on your team for what
Yeah.
that's worth.
And I mean, even calling him like the fourth best mid laner in the LCK, I think is even still underrating him because like that's just how good LCK mid laners are. Like
Yeah.
Chovy, Showmaker, and BDD, like those
Uh
guys, they're like I think people know at this point that like those guys are better than Faker mechanically, but like the brand name, the veteran like voice, like 'cause Faker's like the leader of that team, like
Okay,
it's
you
just still
reminded me
so
of the
worth it.
sad news when you were going through the mid laners.
Okay,
Tell everyone why I'm sad.
we'll get to the next one. Chovy, the Church of Chovy is moving from Life to Gen G. So I think I don't even what was it? The Gen G roster is now going to be Lahens, Ruler, Chovy, Peanut, and I forget what their top was.
I don't know. I haven't been following closely to the LCK and LPL, the roster moves as closely as you
Okay,
have.
talk about your BDD sadness while I think and try to remember this.
I'm happy for Chovy that he's going to Gen G. I still like Gen G, but like BDD had such a good Worlds, man. Like he's kind of getting the Jensen treatment when you think about it. The only difference is that it's looking like he'll still have a team. It's sounding like he's going to Nongshim, if I'm getting that right. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah.
So that's the rumor, or is that do we know if that's happened already?
I think it's a rumor. There's a bunch of crazy like stuff going on behind the scenes with Nongshim. They've like been in like some kind of dramas with both Damwon and T1 because they're trying to acquire both Ghost from Damwon and Kana from T1. But like this is all like nothing has actually happened, and this is just like the orgs kind of flaming each other. But the word on the street is that BDD is going to Nongshim. So still going
I'm
to a
cheering
top
for
team.
Nongshim
Yeah,
then.
like
If that happens, I'm cheering for Nongshim. But the thing is, they're supposed to be rumored to be losing Duck Dom though, no?
yeah, they're losing
And
a
that
lot
guy
of.
was a beast.
Well, yeah, they're losing basically their whole lineup, but it sounds like they're still getting some good players in return. Like they're losing their bot lane, they're losing mid, they're losing top, they're losing jungle, because they're all going to different teams. But it does sound like they're getting some pretty good players. On the flip side, should they actually get Kana, Ghost, BDD, and I don't know what their jungler support is.
Well, and I compared BDD to Jensen not because I think they're equal in skill level, but because the story's kind of the same. That like in if you're in North America and Jensen's on a team, you're more likely to want to go to that team because he's one of the better NA mids. And I think the same would be said for BDD. If BDD's on a team, you're a good player, you're more likely to go to that team as well because BDD's again one of the better mids in the LCK. And so it's not all doom and gloom, but I would be lying to you if I said I wasn't sad about it. Even though I'm really happy that Chovy gets to be on a team with less uh, what kind of word should I use here? Shenanigans? I don't
Hmm.
know. I think Chovy's going to be on a better team, so that's I'm happy for.
Yeah, so the top laner for that roster for the Gen G roster is going to be Doran, the former
Oh,
Griffin, former
yeah.
DRX. I don't even know what team he played for last year.
I don't know either.
I'm looking it up real quick just because KT
Doran's the one that was
Rolster.
splitting time with Sword or something, right? When that
Yeah,
whole
and
Griffin.
that's like when they played Sword, even though everyone knew Doran was the better player, and it was ownership, and we don't even need to get back into that. But
Yeah, that was messy
he
stuff.
he was on KT Rolster last year, which was like a pretty bad team. But
Okay.
yeah. Last up, not last up, I lied. Next up, Nuguri, former world champion, former FPX top laner, is apparently taking a year off. He's taking a break.
Yeah. So, was it true that he was considering going back to Damwon? Was that a thing?
Yes, that was a rumor.
And it looks like that's no longer happening as of
Yeah,
right now. Like thing again, reminder, things can always change and blah blah blah. You guys know the spiel that none of this stuff
yeah.
is
The
set in
other the
stone.
oth-
But
the other thing was that he was maybe going to go to T1.
oh, okay,
That was either like he was going to either T1 or he was going back to Damwon.
gotcha. Okay, yeah,
But
Nuguri.
he's
He
taking a
was obviously one of
sabbatical.
the world's best players last year, and then this year, uh, struggled a little bit. I mean, he was still Nuguri. He was still pretty darn good with FPX, but I think Damwon Nuguri was a little bit better.
I mean, yeah, they won Worlds and FPX
Yeah,
bombed out of Worlds, so Nuguri was like kind of hot and cold.
yeah,
But I mean,
yeah.
he's still a beast. Like he was still a beast in the LPL. Um, so it'll be interesting to see, what happens after a year. It's pretty rare for a player to take a full year off in the prime of their career. We have seen players like, hey, I'm gonna take a year off, and then like halfway through, they reach summer and they're like, damn, I want to play now. Like, get me on the team. So we'll have to see what happens. Last up, the other big FPX star, Doin B, is leaving FPX and joining LNG. LNG had a pretty decent run at Worlds 2021. Had some pretty standout players like Ale and Tarzan, obviously, replacing Icon, who was their weakest player and was fairly obvious during Worlds. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah. Is there any rumor of like who's going with?
No, I don't think so. But presumably
Okay.
I would assume if Doimbe's going to that team, they're keeping Tarzan and they're keeping Ale at the least. And I mean, I thought their bot lane was good. Like Light and Iwandi were really, really good. I thought Iwandi was like super underrated. Um, he played a really sick Rakan, and I was talking about Rakan pretty much the entire World Championship. Like you can play Rakan well, you were popping off at Worlds. So
Yep, and Doinb has the same argument that I just gave for Jensen and BDD in their respective regions. If Doinb's on a team, people are going to want to go to that team. Doinby is definitely one of the best players in the world right now. Even with the bomb out at Worlds, I think people would still say Doinby is up there.
Yeah.
So yeah. Quick news stuff.
Yeah, we got some pretty hype, quick news actually. We'll start off with the bigger of the two news and the older one. Project L, still no name on that, but Riot's fighting game. They basically gave an update for it after pretty much not hearing anything ever since like the 10-year anniversary stream. But it does seem like this game is coming along now. We got a little bit of a sneak peek at some of the characters, specifically Echo, and sort of how the mechanics of the game work. I'm gonna be honest here, I don't know anything about fighting games. I played
Same.
I played Super Smash Bros when I was a kid on like I played Melee on the GameCube and I played Brawl on the Wii. I didn't play any like Gen 4 on the Wii U or like any of Ultimate like I don't know shit. But I might try it out because like the game looks pretty cool. Um, the mechanics look good for the most part from what I've heard about like people who I know who actually play a lot of fighting games and just like the whole fighting game community is saying like how they're very interested in the mechanics of it and that Riot has just always done a good job when making new games based off
Hmm.
LOR, TFT, Valorant. So you can only expect it to be good. Like there's no expectations that this game is going to be terrible.
That's so true. That's really what it is. Like I don't know much about fighting games either, but it looks so good. Like it looks really well done. It looks super clean. And to your point, this is even one of the things I think I said to you yesterday is that like it just seems like Riot is going after every single genre and just being like, "Yo, you want to make a game that's a little bit better than the best one of every other genre?" It's like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, let's try to do that." Now, you could argue that CS:GO might be better than Valorant. I know a lot of people would be back and forth on Valorant's better and this one's better. I don't give a shit. The point is that all of the games that they do make are pretty much top tier in their
Yeah,
genre at the
it's
very
like
least.
top
If they're not
3.
the best, if they're not the best in their genre, they're top tier at least.
Hmm.
Um, is there anything that they've come out with that's just straight up bad?
I was gonna
Maybe mechs and minions,
I was gonna say
mechs
that
versus minions.
or the Hextech Mayhem game. I don't know. Like
Uh,
I saw on Twitter that Riv was playing that game on stream, and I watched the stream for about a minute, and it was just exactly what it was in the trailer. Like it didn't like
But here's the thing, though. That's part of Riot Forge, right? So that's not
yeah,
necessarily Riot making it as well.
it's true. Yeah,
Anyways, it looks fun, and I don't have any doubt. This is not a Riot Forge project. This is a Riot project, and I guess I have a lot of confidence that it's gonna be good. But what can I say? I'm a Riot fanboy, so don't even listen to my opinion on that. It's too biased.
yeah.
Let's
Also,
talk about the World Cities.
well, I was just gonna
Also,
quickly
what?
say when they put the video out, like the 6-minute video they put out, I didn't
Hmm.
know like the one guy had like a twin brother, because like I remember that guy was in that first reveal they did on the 10-year anniversary stream, and I was like, what's going on here? Like, why is there like is the
It's like
thing
they have
like
two
is
of them.
well, I was like, is the screen mirrored or something? Like, what am I watching? I was like, oh wait, they're like actually like two different people and they're twins, and I was like, that is really weird, and like I don't even know why they chose to did that in the first place because it just confused me, but it was just weird. Like, I
It's
don't know.
twins. It's not confusing for long. You figure, oh, okay, they're brothers. Next, move on.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, can we talk about the World Cities? Because I'm too excited.
Okay. I guess Riot announced that obviously Worlds is being held in NA in 2022, but that the cities for the various stages of Worlds have also been announced. So play-ins are happening in Mexico City. Location, I have no idea. I'm also all these other locations. I'm either assuming or they actually did say. Um, Groups and quarters will be played in New York City. I'm presuming it's going to be Madison Square Garden. Why the hell would you not hold it in Madison Square Garden if you're going to have it in New York City? If they did it at the Barclays Center, cringe. I don't know.
Which one's that
Semifinal.
one?
That's the one that the Brooklyn Nets play in.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah. Next up, semifinals. So Blue Jays getting hyped. It's being held in
Yep.
Toronto at the Scotiabank Center, formerly known as the ACC or Canada Center. Um,
I think it's Scotiabank Arena. I think.
okay, whatever.
Sorry.
Yeah, but exciting.
Just Googling. Make sure it is, in
I
fact,
think it is
Scotiabank
Arena. Now,
Arena.
now that you said
Yeah.
it, I'm pretty sure it is Arena.
It's where the Maple Leafs play. It's where the Raptors play. It's where they had summer finals, at LCS summer finals in 2016, where they
Yep.
sold out and it was amazing. And They're
Yep.
going back. And then finals is going to be in San Francisco at Chase Center. Is that what
Yeah, the
center?
Chase Center, which is the new Warriors Arena, formerly was the Oracle Arena, maybe it was. But this is like newly built. Like they built this thing like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So
So
it's all new and cool.
I'm actually interested in going to New York as well, though, because it's not that far from where I'm at. And I know that you're kind of from that area, sort of,
Yeah, I'm
like
from
an hour
Jersey,
or
so
something. Yeah.
train
So
ride in.
anyways, I guess what I'm saying is maybe I could do quarters and semis. I think some of us, like you, me, maybe some of the boys would want to go to New York as well. Um, because I look, I don't want to be all pessimistic, but there's a chance we don't see an NA team in semifinals. In fact, there's probably a very good chance of that.
Mhm.
And so I know that there's going to be NA teams in group stage. So maybe I'll go to New York as well and try to catch both. I'm
Both.
so excited though that not only is Worlds in North America, I kind of high rolled. People in like Southern Ontario pretty much high rolled because you do have the option of going to Ontario, or excuse me, going to Toronto, and then you could also just go to New York. It's probably about 8 hour drive. So I'm,
Yeah, it's about
anyways,
8 hours.
I'm so hyped for this, and I will be looking for tickets. That is for sure.
Me too, probably.
I do feel bad for people like where there's not really anything near, like Texas, for example. There's probably a lot of Texas
Hey, they
fans.
get they get spring finals next
That
year.
sucks. That sucks. Like you can't even compare spring LCS finals to Worlds,
It's gonna be
man.
epic, dude. It's gonna matter a lot.
Are you still gonna be in Texas for that? Are you gonna go to that?
I don't know. Probably not. Like it's
Oh,
spring finals. Who cares? XD.
okay. Well, there you have it.
Happening at
Uh,
the NRG Stadium. I'm going there this next Sunday. So
okay. Cool.
Jets Texans
Cool. Cool.
Poggers. JK. It's gonna be
Okay.
shit.
Anyways, that's really exciting. So they announced that, and that's Pog. Is it time for Arcane talk?
Yes, Arcane.
This is the last segment. This is where we warn everyone that there will be spoilers. Well, not possibly. There
Well,
will
there
be
are.
spoilers.
Yes, there
Yeah,
are.
there will be spoilers for this section. So I will give you 5-10 seconds to say goodbye if you don't want spoilers.
Go
It
watch
is
the
the
Why
end.
haven't you watched the show? Go watch the show.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
get out of here.
Don't get me wrong. I really respect that you're listening to CFP before you watch Arcane. But if that's the case, come on,
Dude,
bean soup for you.
one of my friends was like, "Nah, I'm not gonna watch it. I'll just read the plot summary." It's like that is
Uh,
just so cringe, man. Like, don't miss me with that.
but it's so good.
I know.
Um,
You suck,
okay, I'm gonna start
Kelgrixie.
off with one of the things that I did last week, where I bring something up and then I say I'm not gonna say what it is because I didn't want to spoil, and I felt like a jackass because why did I bring it up? I shouldn't have. What I was talking about, for those that are listening again, is last week we saw in Act Two, Mel Medarda is like painting a mural, and some people already knew this, but some people didn't. Myself, I was one of them originally. That she was painting, I guess, one of the buildings, or at least the city of Noxus, or something like that. And so it was like, oh, there's a chance that this takes a turn towards some Noxus lore. Well, in Act 3, it was very clear that we got some Noxus lore, with her mum being one of the Noxus people or whatever
So their
coming over.
leader
And
or
so
something.
yeah, I'm not still entirely sure. I'm sure there's people that do know what exactly she is. But the point is like there's no secret anymore that Noxus is going to be part of the Arcane story,
Hmm.
and I think that's hella hype, right? Like, I mean, they could have said literally any of the cities that people know, like Shurima or Ionia or whatever, and people would have been hyped. But like, you get a lot of bad guys with Noxus,
Yeah,
so
well,
I think that's really exciting.
once again, being a person who doesn't know anything about the league lore, like I remember her bodyguard who was like following her around. I was like, is that Darius? Because he was holding like something that looked like an axe, and he had like the
Oh,
like.
that guy.
So I was
I
like,
thought you meant the scrawny little dude. I'm like,
no,
what?
not the boy toy. The
Yeah.
Yeah, the other guy. But I was like, then I got a good look at him because like I didn't want to pause and like go look at frames. So I was like first time watching the thing. So, but then like it reached a point where it was like that is clearly not Darius, like whatever.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh my god, is that Darius? Like, whoa. But then it wasn't.
Okay, let's talk specifically about some of the things that happened in Act 3. Okay, first of all, was this the best act?
Yes, by far. No, not by
It was
far.
so good. I think it was really good as well. And I loved 1 and 2, but this one was the best one.
Yeah,
What did you like about it, JNT? What was the standout stuff for
everything,
you?
everything, the whole thing. The one the
I
The one thing that my only criticism for the show was, but again, like I kind of reiterated this from like Mark Z and Travis's like review of it, was that I thought the music like felt a bit off, but complete opposite. Like the music in this last act was like so good, especially in the last episode, in the fight scenes, right at the end, like when Jinx is shooting the Jinx R into the council, like oh my god, the music was just so good in this act.
Yeah, so I loved the music as well, and I thought the best thing was the fight scenes. I mentioned
Yeah,
last week, maybe the week before, I don't remember, that I was so excited to see what happens when they start using the Hextech weapons.
yeah, it was sick.
The Vi and Savika fight was so good. That was definitely my favorite one. And then even the one with Jace as well, where he's like shock blasting stuff, and unfortunately, it's a little kid kills a kid. But even that was
He
still
deserved it.
sweet. It was like finally we get to see them use these weapons. How freaking sweet are the gauntlet gloves, man? Those
Yeah,
things
that was
are
cool.
what are they actually called? Something gauntlets?
I don't know.
God, we're fucking noob. But anyways, it was so good. I thought that fight scene with Savika was insane. Definitely the best part of the show for me so far. It's been a long time since I've watched a show like by myself with no one where I actually just out loud just yelled "Holy shit!" because it was just so good. And I think that's what we got with Act 3. Just so many good fight scenes. Seeing them use all the weapons was really the icing on the cake, I think, of the whole series.
Yeah, all the fight scenes were good. The one with like Jinx and Echo on the bridge with like the flashbacks and the flash
Mhm.
forwards. The Vi and Jace one in the Shimmer lab. And then followed up by in the Vi Savika fight. For people who don't know who Savika is, she was the black chick with the mechanical arm who would inject
She's got the
herself
sword thing.
with the Shimmer. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, she just added a sword all of a sudden. Was that there
yeah.
the whole time, or was that just Act 3? She's like, boom, sword
Got
now.
added in. Also, like the what was that guy's name? I don't even remember. The hella tatted up guy with the golden jaw.
It was Finn.
Yeah,
I thought you would remember that. His name was Finn.
noob, man. Like what
It's
an
spelled the
idiot.
same way as like Finn the LCS or LEC now, Finn.
That guy was a noob, man.
Why?
I don't know, 'cause he was like double crossing like the leader and like approaching like the right hand man to Silco about like let's betray Silco. Oh,
Th-
let me just go tell Silco about that plan and let me just slice your face in half. Thank you very much.
I thought that was really cool. And they made it look a little bit like she was considering
I
betraying.
I didn't
I
have like
know.
miss me
I
with
know.
that.
The
That
thing
was not
is,
gonna happen.
yeah, so I guess there's a little bit of criticism there because when you're watching that, you're like, they're not gonna just kill off Silco like that.
Yeah,
Like you're not nearly far into the show enough to
yeah.
do that. Like if Silco's gonna die, it's going to be at the end of the show. There's foreshadowing there, which is like it just felt like it would be way too early and it would just be way too sudden
Hmm.
um, for it to be Savika that kills him. You would think that if he dies, it has to be Vi, Jace, Jinx. Like it needs to be someone that, like, holy shit, that character just killed him. Maybe even Caitlyn
Hmm.
or Victor or someone. Like it won't be Savika that kills him. So let's be honest. When you're watching that, you're like, she's not going. But yeah, the only other little criticism that I had was the part where you have Caitlyn and Vi. They go to the council and they do their spiel, and then Vi storms out because she's like, "Oh, you guys aren't going to listen, or you guys don't care about us. It's just the same old BS." And then Caitlyn goes chasing after her, and Vi gives her that like totally cliche like, "Go back to your big shiny house of yours." That that was the only thing that I was like, dude, that is so cliche. Like, how many stories have you seen of like, oh, the poor person and the rich person can't get along because the poor person is like, oh, just go enjoy your caviar and blah blah blah. That was the only part that I didn't like. I was like, this feels a little cliche. But other than that, I thought the whole show was really really
Yeah,
good.
I don't have a single bad thing to say about Act 3. It was just like so good. I felt like I think people were worried that Riot was gonna do too much in these last 3 episodes, or something was gonna feel rushed, or too many things are going to happen. But it didn't
Yeah,
feel like that was the case.
I was afraid
And
of that.
and on the flip side, people seem to be like mad that the end of the show got left on this huge cliffhanger of like, well,
It's
they're.
season one.
I know. At
It's
the same
supposed to
time,
be
as like
like that.
like were you thinking that this whole thing was going to get resolved in 3 episodes? Like no chance. So I think the way that they ended it was also like pretty good, with like them basically about to put forward this like, okay, we're going to make Zon a nation, we're going to agree to this peace treaty, yada yada. Because at first I didn't clock that like right away when the show started, that Zon was not actually Zon yet. Like it was just still Piltover, but it was the
Hmm.
undercity of Piltover. Like I was like, oh
Right.
yeah, when they started talking about Zon, I was like, well yeah, it's not actually a thing yet.
Yeah.
So I do think they left the show in a very good spot where like, oh, they're about to sign the peace treaty to make Zaun its own nation. Silco's going to be the guy, but oh wait, Silco died. Oh wait, Jinx just went off the rails. Oh wait, they're maybe all about to die.
Yeah, the my other favorite part as well was really at the end. I forgot to mention it when she puts the cupcake on the table and like it's under the thing and,
Yeah, everyone
and
thought it was going to be Caitlyn's head.
you think it's yeah, you think it's a head and you're like, "Oh no." That part I really liked that part
They
as
did a
well.
like that was also like the same thing because I think people were a bit nervous that like, well, there's not a lot of shit's gonna go down because like they can't just start killing off characters. And then it was like the moment was like, or can they? Like, is
They
she really?
could.
Well,
Yeah,
they could have,
exactly. They
but
could.
that was like the moment where people were like, at least myself, like I was really like, is Caitlyn's head gonna be revealed under like the silver platter? Like I didn't think it was going to happen, but like the way that they did it and the way that they made it very suspenseful was like making me think that like, oh shit, she's gonna reveal
Yeah.
and it's gonna be a head on the plate. And then it was the cupcake
How
with the
crazy
gemstone
would
on
that
it.
have been though?
That would have been like the shock of the series
That would have been a
had to have
huge
been.
shock because you don't expect them to, and ultimately they didn't kill off Caitlyn in just a blink of an eye. But I didn't think Silco would die either, to be honest.
Somebody had to
Now
die.
Silco's not a league character, so I wonder if that makes the dynamic a little bit different. But I do want to talk about Silco because after the series was over, there seemed to be a lot of mixed opinions on Silco from the fan community. I think everyone still loved Silco, but there was like a lot of people that were like, "Oh, Silco was genuine and he wasn't that bad of a guy." Sort of the Silco did nothing wrong. Um, but I definitely think he did something wrong. What do you think?
Well, I mean, he definitely like he was a bad guy. Like, don't get us wrong, but like there did reach a certain point where like you did kind of have some empathy for the character when like
Yeah,
he basically, treated Jinx like his daughter and like she's really going off the rails and she doesn't know if she can trust him and like it looks like she's flipping sides and then, it looks like she's gonna go back to Silco, but then she just loses it and kills him and it's like you had some empathy for the character for sure.
now
I
he
thought
picks up the gun though that she put on the table, and I rewatched it a few times. I couldn't tell where he's aiming the gun. Was he aiming it at Vi or at Caitlyn? I don't think he was aiming it at Jinx.
yeah,
Was
I
he?
I don't think so.
I don't like. It wouldn't make sense for him to be aiming it at
Was
Jinx.
I think it was Vi. Is it not? Like that's probably the only
They
thing that
didn't
would
really show.
they
Like
didn't,
it
yeah,
was like
but
such. It was so zoomed in that I was like, I think he's aiming it at Vi, but I don't know what's going on there. Um. So for me, I think that this was just a reminder for me that like bad people can do good things, like the argument that Silco did nothing wrong. I'm not like look, he tried to be a good father figure and that's cool and all, but let's not forget that he also took advantage of like all of Zon and got everyone all addicted
the
to
nod's
Shimmer
on
and
yet.
crap like whatever. It's still Zon. People know what I'm talking about. Like you got all these people addicted to Shimmer and stuff like that. Like he's still a bad guy.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't sit here and pretend he did nothing wrong. But I thought it was great. I really loved how they ended his story, basically showing that all of that stuff. Because for me, the whole time, I did not think it was genuine. I did think that he just wanted Jinx on his side to use her as a tool to do all this bad
Yeah.
shit and to steal things and whatnot. But the ending of showing that it was all genuine and that he really did want to be a father figure to her is why people kind of fell more in love with the Silco character at the end. I thought that was really, really well done and a really good way to end that for him and Jinx, that relationship there.
The other thing that I saw about like when they were talking about Silco and saying how much they enjoyed him was like, oh, I can't wait for them to add these various arcane characters into League. And I feel like I'm on the complete opposite end of that spectrum where like I don't want to say random characters because they're not random, but these arcane characters to be put into the game. Like I feel like there should be that distinct boundary like these guys like can stay over there, that's totally fine and but like the league characters are the league characters. Like I don't really want
Yeah.
them like to kind of go back on it if you know what I mean.
I just don't see Silco like he would need like some sort of cool ass weapon or some sort of power that I don't think he has. Like he has like social power, but not like a
Yeah, exactly. It's not a fighter.
I don't yeah, he's not like Galio that can jump across the map kind of thing. So that's where like if one of them was to become a champion, it would probably be Savika because she got that fucking swordy
Yeah,
arm
but I
for the
don't want
guard.
her to be champion. She can just stay in the show. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah, I'm okay with that thought process. Um, I don't think I had anything else. Um,
You want to talk about your boy Heimerdinger? He's like
Oh,
working
yes,
with
that's what it
Echo
was.
now.
That's what it was. So I wanted to talk about the dynamic between Heimer and Echo. I actually like that those two characters came together. Um, I think Heimer in the little coat, little trench coat or
That
whatever
was
the hell that
sick.
was, that
Yeah.
was really cute. That was funny.
Mhm.
And also really sad that like he tried to go help the people of Zon, or I guess it's not Zon yet. But and then he got rejected, and he was like, "Okay, well, guess I'll just go back to Piltover since I'm not wanted here." And then he stumbles upon Echo, and it looks
And the
like they're gonna have like
Firelights.
some cool little friendship where they maybe build a bunch of gadgets and stuff. So I guess I'm excited to see what the two minds, the two like engineering kind of minds put together. And they got to make something cool, right?
Yeah, well, they'll make all of Echo's stuff. Like,
Yeah,
because they had like the watch. They showed it at the end. Like that's the thing that he uses to use his ultimate. That's what they used for his ultimate in the cinematic that they released with Echo. Like back in the when the champ came out, like when he was fighting Blitzcrank or whatever. I don't even know what like any uh like what that means like for his lore or whatever because I don't know anything about lore. But like I assume that little stopwatch that he was using beforehand is obviously what's going to turn into his like like warp back
they put a lot
mechanism
of
thing.
focus on that stopwatch,
Yeah,
which of
it was
course,
cool.
right? It's Echo's shtick. Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
Echo's not Echo without. So
Mm.
anyways, yeah, the series is 10 out of 10, right? Is that what I
Yeah.
think you tweeted that as
It's
well?
it banger. Like
It's 10 out of 10.
it got 10
All
out of
right.
10 on like IGN. It's still like I remember I mentioned last time it's like now I think like top 15 rated like TV show of all time like based on IMDb rankings. And like those aren't like no meme. Like there are some pretty prominent and relevant and accurate shows in that list. And to have Arcane just be up there like that, it's crazy. Such a
One
good job they
last
did on it.
one last thing that I want to point out, and this is another like spoiler, like I will warn people that maybe you don't want to hear this. I don't know. I thought it was really interesting. It sounds like it's very possible that Vander is actually Warwick. They showed at the end of the thing, they show Singed, they pan out from Singed, and you see like a wolf sort of thing. You see Warwick,
Yeah.
but some friends of mine were actually informing me that it's probably Vander, which I think is a really, really cool and unforeseen. At least I didn't see that coming. Way of
Hmm.
introducing Warwick to the story. That could possibly be Vander, and I think that is sweet if that actually is the case. That was the other thing that I thought was really like I did not see that coming, and that's a really good twist, I think, as well.
Yeah, it's for people who don't maybe know what we're talking about. Like the when they pan out, the sort of head on the body of presumably Warwick, I think that's obvious, kind of looks like Vander from the side. And then also some of his actual quotes, like in League, like in the actual game, relate to a specific person, like a child's voice or whatever like that. And that's kind of obvious because he was the father to Jinx and Vi, or Powder and Vi.
Yeah, doesn't look like we're gonna get Powder back. I mean, I wouldn't
Nope,
expect that you would.
she sat down in the Jinx chair, dude. It's
Yeah,
impossible.
well, yeah, and the other thing too is like I don't think it would make a lot of sense if she went back to
Yeah,
being
it
Powder.
wouldn't. I would
Like the lead
honestly.
character is Jinx, so
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, I think that's it. I
Mm.
think that's pretty much going to wrap up our last episode of CFP for this year. We are not done with CFP. We definitely plan to come back next year at I guess before the lock-in tournament. So sometime early to mid January we will be back.
Second
Uh,
week of January, probably.
yeah, I think I can speak for JNT in saying that we appreciate you guys a lot. We got a lot of support for CFP from people that we don't even know over the last, I guess, year and a half now that we've been doing this. This was our first full year of covering the LCS, being spring and summer, and I think JNT and I are really happy with a lot of the support that we get from you guys. So I can't thank you guys enough. We definitely hope that you guys enjoy and come back when once we start up again. It just doesn't make sense for us to do episodes in the off season. There's not enough happening, and so we're not going to waste your guys' time with episodes every week when there's not enough to talk about. Um, but yeah, I guess just a huge thank you, J and T. Anything you want to say before we close it out?
No, just shout out all the people who continue to come back week in and week out. Um, those are we're doing this for you guys. Like obviously we like to do it, but your continued support just makes it a lot easier and a lot more enjoyable to do this on a weekly basis.
I don't think we would still be doing it if we didn't have people listening.
Yeah,
While
like
we don't have the biggest audience, we recognize that it's a small little community, it is a great community that we really respect or have a lot of appreciation for. And so it is because you guys keep coming back that we keep doing this stuff. And so we're going to continue to do that. And if you're like, well, when am I going to get episodes? Just subscribe. One last plug. Subscribe on YouTube. We're gonna continue to put them out in the same places next year or in 2022. And
Hmm.
so I guess we should also say have happy holidays and Merry Christmas and all of the above. Hope you guys enjoy that, and we'll see you guys in 2022. This has been episode 67 of the Clown Fiesta podcast. Goodbye.